Good morning, everyone. And this is actually a good morning because nothing bad has happened. And Happy New Year. This video and podcast is being recorded on January 1st of 2025. Yay! The world hasn't ended yet. Yay! So much has happened in the past year, and I'm sure I'll talk about more of it later on, but I want to talk about something different right now. What I want to talk about right now is loneliness, how to handle loneliness. The reason I want to talk about this is because I've seen this. Well, to be honest, I saw this in a video for the Dry Creek Wrangler School. I don't think I got the title right, but it got me thinking. The guy, Dwayne, was talking about loneliness or something like that. Excuse me, just trying to clear my sinuses. And it stuck with me because I've been lonely most of my life, and it I have a unique perspective that I want to share. So to give context, and this is for people who are watching this for the first time or don't know anything about me. I have autism spectrum disorder, I'm high functioning, I have ADHD, I have major depressive disorder, and I have generalized anxiety disorder. A classic quadfecta of problems. And I was not medicated growing up because my parents didn't believe that I should be medicated. And I didn't get a lot of resources after middle school. And starting in high school, it definitely got tough because I didn't have a lot of friends. Even though I was on the football team, I still was a horrible football player. And I spent a lot of time by myself. I mean, even when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time by myself because I was just more comfortable being alone than I was being around other people. I spent a lot of time alone also because I had very few friends. One of the things that my mother did with me when I was growing up, and when I say growing up, I don't just mean when I was like 8 or 9. I also mean from like uh, I want to say 5 or 6, all the way up to 17 or 18, was every weekend I had to get out of the house and spend time with a friend because she was concerned with me for spending so much time alone. And I don't think she understood that I liked being alone because one, it was safe, and two, it was difficult for me to make friends because, well, one, my brain wasn't balanced properly, so I didn't have a balanced brain to use to effectively communicate with other people. Now, I learned how to effectively communicate with other people later on in life with a lot of help, like therapy and a boatload of patience. So that contributed to loneliness. But for some people, loneliness is a good thing because it means they're not getting into trouble. It also means that they are healthy enough to not need constant companionship. Now, anything to an extreme can be bad. I know, because I would take loneliness to an extreme. And just being by myself all the time affected my marriage. My wife needs companionship. That is one of her love languages. Now, nowadays, she understands that I need to be alone at times. But I've also learned that she needs to, excuse me, I just had a banana, so I'm trying to get it off my throat, off my tongue. She needs to have companionship. She needs quality time with me. So we both have to find a compromise. We have to find a balance between me being alone and her needing companionship. Now, just because I liked being alone doesn't mean I liked it all the time. Because, like any human being, I'm a social person, I'm a social creature, and I need to have companionship as well. So, being lonely did suck at times. In fact, a lot of times. Because for me, the loneliness was when it sucked, the times it sucked, it was mainly because I didn't have anyone to relate to, didn't have anyone who would help me feel accepted. It always felt like no matter what, nobody understood me. And it felt like I'm just breathing right now, just trying to calm my brain down. Because my brain is calmer, I can actually do that. I feel like loneliness can hurt if it's not treated properly. And you treat it properly, not just being around other people, but being around other people who accept you for who you are. Now you do have to get around people and find people who can accept you, and a lot of times it's engaging in your interests. And you also need to learn how to effectively socialize properly, finding a balance between talking and listening, as well as finding a balance between wanting to share yourself with other people, but also listening to other people, not just listening to them talk randomly, but engage with them and learn about them. Because people love talking about themselves. So if you learn to engage with them and listen to them talk about themselves, talk about their interests, their passions, their lives, you'll learn how important it is to listen. And you start to learn one of the keys or tools for making new friends, which is listening, active listening. And again, it's not just making the effort to hear them talk randomly or going, uh huh, oh yeah, you don't say. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, asking questions about them and being genuinely interested in them. I had to learn that, and it was rough. But engaging in my interests did help because for the first time in my life, I learned what acceptance was like. Now, one of the things that helped me the most was professional wrestling because pro wrestling was the first environment where I felt truly accepted for myself in spite of my faults. Because I'm very self conscious and low self esteem and just always apologizing. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I'm like this. But eventually, the other wrestlers were like, dude, it's okay. You don't have to apologize for everything. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Now, I've engaged in professional wrestling. I'm returning to my training tomorrow. And part of the reasons why I like that is because I have that feeling of acceptance from the other wrestlers. The reason that's important to me is because if I can get that feeling of acceptance from these people who I spend a limited amount of time with, then I can get that feeling from someone I spend most of my time with. That someone is my wife. She accepting me is probably the most important thing. And now I feel like she does accept me. Now, me feeling like it is important because even if she was accepting me and I wasn't aware of it, or I didn't want to accept it or believe it out of stubbornness or depression or out of pride or out of ego, now I do believe and feel like she does accept me for who I am, and I see it. So I thank professional wrestling for teaching me that I can be accepted for being myself. And I am grateful that I was able to build on that to something even more important, which was being accepted by my wife, which led to another important thing, being accepted by my family and feeling accepted by my family. So loneliness, one of the ways to combat loneliness is to find people who accept you for who you are. Now, I had an idea of going in a different direction with this, but that's what came out of my mouth. So I feel like that's more important than what I had originally thought of. So find people who accept you. Start with engaging with it in a community with your passions and your hobbies. I engaged in Dungeons and Dragons. I engaged in stand-up comedy. I engaged in professional wrestling, and I engaged in music. Out of those four, pro wrestling is the one that gave me that feeling of acceptance, and I wasn't even looking for it, which made it even more powerful. I hope this helps you. I hope that you who are listening will find acceptance if you are feeling lonely or if you're not lonely, because acceptance is good either way. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.